What is up guys, it's Troy at the Full Setup here, back with another video for you, and today we're taking a look at a $300 professional grade shotgun microphone from Godox. This is their new VDS-M3. They also have I do believe it's a VDS-M2 coming out, which is their version of something like the Videomic NTG. Now this microphone does have a built-in battery, which gives it up to 220 hours of power for when you haven't got an external recorder on location. It's also got a 10 decibel pad, and it's also got a high shelf on it as well. Now I've been using this microphone for the past week, so we're going to do a bunch of tests for you today. We're going to do some boom tests against some other shotgun microphones and some pencil condenser microphones, and then we're also going to do some outdoor tests as well. But I don't actually own an external recorder, so we're just going to be going that super, rough and nasty XLR to 3.5mm connection into my camera. So I'm going to take you in for a closer look. We're going to unbox the microphone. I'm going to show you all around it. Then we're going to do a bunch of tests, and then I will come back with my final thoughts on this $300 microphone. Let's take a closer look at the VDS-M3 then. So as you can see here, you can see a picture of the microphone on the box. It says true quality sound here, Godox VDS-M3 multifunctional supercardioid condenser shotgun microphone. Up at the top here, it says supercardioid, adjustable gain. Not really, it's just got a 10 dB pad, high pass filter, high frequency boost mode, and 220 plus hours battery life, and direction adjusting bracket. I don't know what that means. And then on the back of the box, there is just a picture of the VDS-M3. I got this the right way. Okay then, so it's really nicely packaged in here. There is some silica, so make sure you dispose of that correctly. There is also a user manual as well, but it's pretty self-explanatory. It's a microphone with some buttons on the side. Then there is the microphone, which we're just going to put to one side for a moment. And then there is also a USB-C cable for charging this as well. This cannot be used as a USB-C microphone. For that, you are going to need their VDS-M2. So it comes with a nice little foam pop filter here. And then there is also, we'll look at the microphone in a second because I'm just wondering what this is. Well, I know what it is. This is the microphone clip. But what I'm a little bit confused is I don't see a 5/8 to 3/8 adapter, although this looks like it unscrews. So let's see what's underneath. It's kind of standard practice that you include the little adapter. That's why I've got about 40 of them in a box. So it's not the biggest problem, but I don't know if you can see that there. Hopefully the camera's got focus, but I don't know what's going on here. So you can see in there, that's a 5/8 connection. There's nothing going on in the bottom of that. Like nothing at all. Okay. And then you've got this, which is another 5/8 internal connection. Then it's a 5/8, so it would be a female, because it's the opposite way around. And then there's a 3/8 female. So I don't understand what you're screwing that into. Maybe I'm missing something. Is there just something in the industry I don't know about? But I don't understand that. That doesn't make any sense. So yeah, there should be a 5/8 to 3/8 connection in there. I'm not saying there should be, as in your order will come with one. I'm saying there should be across the board. Okay. So here is the microphone then. Now it measures 278mm long by 22mm in width, and it's 183 grams in weight. As you can see, it says Godox on it there. Whoa. We'll come back to that in a second. I don't know if you can see that in there. I don't know if my camera is focused enough, but the machining inside this XLR connection is some of the best I've ever seen. I know this is going to sound really weird and geeky, but Jesus, I can't even see any machining that's been done. That's the gold standard, literally, for what an XLR connector should look like on the inside. I'm hoping you could see that on camera there, because that is just, ooh. Anyway, back over to the microphone. There's a USB-C port on the side here for charging. It's a 2000 milliamp hour battery, good for, they claim, 220 plus hours. I think the NTG2 does like 500 though, but still, like when it's that many hours, who cares? There's also a power button here. If you hold that, you turns it on. You just press all these buttons off. So when it's blue, that just means it's being powered. You don't have to use this you don't have to use it powered like this if you're using 48 volts of phantom power. Okay. So if the microphone's off, you plug in a cable and turn 48 volts on, this light will go blue. Okay. But if you press it one more time, you get a minus 10 dB pad. This is going to be very useful if you're plugging this directly into a camera. That's what I'm going to do for the testing today. You should use an external recorder, but that's going to really help with hot preamps on cameras, that minus 10 dB pad, and also when you're in noisy situations. Now, there is also a high shelf, which is going to boost the top end frequencies. I wouldn't recommend using this for voice and indoor applications and stuff. Where this is incredibly useful is for outdoor application, because when you're using stuff like fluffy filters or windjammers, you're attacking the you're removing some of those high frequencies. And by turning this on, you're almost adding them back in. And then there is a 75 hertz high pass filter as well, which I recommend you should probably most of the time always have on. So this is a super cardioid shotgun microphone then. It has an output impedance of 200 ohms. The signal to noise ratio is 75 dB. So I believe that makes the self noise of this 19 dBA. I may be wrong. If there's any of you out there that are big geeks and they're telling me, why I'd be wrong, I'd very much like to know. Please educate me. But I think that's correct. And at $300, that's not too good. Like you can work with a microphone that's that noisy, but it shouldn't be in this price point. Okay. But most of the microphones around this price point are going to be 15 dBA and under. Okay. So that's a bit of a con there. Frequency range of 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz, pretty standard for most microphones, and a sensitivity of minus 37 dB. I don't know if I said the weight of it, but it's 183 grams. Now, though this is quite a long microphone, it is still a short shotgun microphone. Look at the interference tube on it. It's not that long there. Do you know what I mean? It's just a touch bit longer than the NTG when it comes to the interference tube, but otherwise it is quite a lengthier microphone. We're going to be testing both of these microphones outdoors later. That's just a little comparison there. They're about the same width. And then this is the NTG3 from Rode as well. You can see there the NTG3 has a good, probably 2-inch longer interference tube going on in there. I just imagine that's probably about right. And it's a little bit longer and it is thinner. The VDS-M3 is a thicker microphone. Now, one thing I've spotted on here, and I don't think you're going to be able to see this on camera. So on the interference tube, there are circles going all the way up. But the circles start off small and slowly get larger. So if you imagine if it was like a V shape like that, and then you just fit a circle into each one going all the way down. That's something that I can see on the side there. Anything else? I really like this XLR connection. It's so nice. I mean, it's really pretty to look at. It's like it's smiling at me. Anyway, there is a quick overview of the Godox VDS-M3. Let's take it back up top. We're going to do some boom tests, comparing it to some other microphones, and then we'll take this microphone outdoors and do some testing there as well. And we are now talking into the front of the microphone with the 75 hertz high pass filter on. We're now going to slowly move around to the side of the microphone. We'll keep going around to the side of the microphone here so you can hear what's going on. We are now moving around to the back of the microphone. So this is where a supercardioid is going to pick up some sound from the rear. We are then moving around the other side of the microphone again. Sorry, it wasn't in shot there. And then we are now back to the front of the microphone. I am about 6 inches off the microphone. We are going to remove the filter. Pumping, purple, platypus. Pumping, purple, platypus. Well, that's quite good. I would have expected that to pop, pop, pop. Okay, the pop filter works very well. Right, let's get this mic boomed. So right now you're listening to the Godox VDS-M3 boomed, and we're also going to test 2 other microphones as well. We're going to test another shotgun microphone, and we're also going to test a small diaphragm pencil condenser microphone as well. So I don't boom microphones that often, so I've been watching some videos this past week, and I think I've got it set up about right. So I've got it about a foot away from me, and it's pointing more towards my chin, which allows me to come a little bit forward and a little bit back. Now we're running it through a PreSonus Revelator IO24. The gain is set to, I believe, about 36 dB. And then I've also got the 75 hertz high pass filter. turned on for this microphone as well. The 10 dB pad is off, but we will be testing with the 10 dB pad when we go outside and do some tests later. Now, I know that you can see some acoustic treatment behind me here, but that's only really thin stuff, and to be honest, it's more for show. It doesn't really do an awful lot, but I've done a couple of little things here, some minor adjustments that could help with acoustics. Okay, so we have a nice thick rug and that all of this is set up on. The window there has 2 curtains in front of them, not that thick, but over this side of the room is actually a massive open plan lounge diner. So I'm in the diner, that's where my studio is. So when I generally use hyper and super cardioid microphones, I generally actually have them booming up towards me, so shooting up, coming up here, just out of frame, because the one thing that I find is that they do pick up quite a bit of reflections from my ceiling, remember, because they pick up sound from the rear. Another thing that I've noticed as well from the testing why sometimes I boom up is actually when I shoot videos at work, because at my office, I actually do sort of IT, and I'm moving into maybe a little bit of marketing and some of that sort of stuff now. But it's a listed building, so I can find rooms that are quite quiet, even if they're not acoustically treated. But the problem is the people walking above those rooms, because old listed buildings, thin ceilings, you know, creaky floorboards, all of this sound that comes in. So it is half term at the moment as well. I can hear little people running around. I can hear my partner doing something upstairs. So just, you know, for testing, you know, is it picking any of that up? I think it is isolating me quite well, but the only thing I've noticed when it's boomed up is I much prefer the microphone coming this way. I feel like it's losing the proximity effect a bit, but I don't know if that's because the next microphone we're going to test has quite a strong proximity effect and quite a strong low end. So we're going to move over to that microphone, but yeah, this is the Godox VDS-M3, 36 dB of gain in a pretty much not very well treated room. I would say this would be almost a kind of worst case scenario by someone that doesn't boom very often. So if you've never really boomed that much, maybe this is what your first results are going to be. But yeah, there we go. Let's move on to the next microphone. Now, I don't own a lot of shotgun microphones, so this might be an unfair comparison, comparing a $300 shotgun microphone to a $700 shotgun microphone. But right now what you're listening to is the Rode NTG3. Personally, I'd probably boom this microphone a little bit higher, but I wanted to boom it so they're both at about the same distance away from me, which is 1 foot away and at my chin, because you can hear straight away the bass response on this thing is very strong. It is definitely got a lot of low end. Some people really like it, some people don't like it. Where it's obviously very good is if you've got the microphone 2 or 3 foot away from you, you still get a really full-bodied response out of this microphone. Now, I am running an 80 Hertz high pass filter through my IO24 on this at the moment, but I'm not using any of the other post processing. Now, although this is a $700 microphone, this is where Troy's always buy, use but love comes into play, because I actually paid £245 for this microphone. It only came with a foam pop filter, so I've still got to get a clip and a shock mount and all that stuff, but I can pretty much put it in the ones that my video mics came with. So I'm mostly covered for that anyway, but it's just to know that bargains are there to be had. I think this is absolutely a fantastic microphone. But again, like I said, if you did just only want to buy brand new and you just want brand new microphones, this microphone is like 2.5 times more expensive. Is it 2.5? You know, or whatever. It's $400 more anyway. So, but this is the NTG3, again, boomed in a sort of area that isn't well treated by someone that doesn't boom microphones very often. Let's move over to the pencil condenser then. So moving on to the pencil condenser microphone, and again, you know, for price wise, again, this isn't a fair comparison. So this microphone is just a touch cheaper than the NTG3. So this is the Audix SCX1 hypercardioid. So I'm just going to tell you the story about how I've ended up with this microphone and the Rode microphone, which I had both of them for about a month and again use but love. And that is because I set myself a budget of £500 to get myself a sort of out of frame microphone. Okay. I did sell my Octava MK012 a while back, and I sort of regretted it. And I just don't know what to do with buying another one of those microphones at the moment. Like, obviously I can get them in the UK, and if it's like a shop that's already bought it and paid money for it, I don't see there's anything wrong with that. But then if it's coming directly from Russia to that company and then being shipped to me, at the moment with what's going on, I wouldn't be interested in buying that microphone. So I knew that I was going to have to go a little bit more expensive, and that's when I found out about the Audix SCX1 hypercardioid microphone, because I was looking at things like an MKH50 or a Sheps microphone, but it's out of my budget. But again, like I said, I like to buy used but love. So this one I actually won for $250. So my total cost for this microphone and the NTG3, and this one was like flawless, brand new condition, box, everything with it. So my total cost, yeah, was £495. So I saved myself a fiver, and I bought myself some chocolate because I'm a little chubber. And this is what I'm talking about, use but love, because technically, you know, both of these microphones would have cost a little bit less than the Godox. Now, pencil condensers are going to be better in this environment, but again, I prefer to boom them up and pointing at me, but I know this is how most of you are going to do it, so that's what we're doing for the testing here today. I really like the sound of this microphone. In fact, I do like the sound of all of these microphones. They've all got different pros and cons about them. But yeah, just thought I wanted to do a test for you, you know, 2 shotgun microphones, varied in prices, and then just what you should probably use for indoor. But as we know, shotgun microphones excel outdoors. So we're going to pop a couple on the camera, go for a little wander, do some tests for you, and then I'm going to come back and tell you my final thoughts of the Godox VDS-M3. So I've popped my camera and brought it outside. Now it is really bright today, and I still haven't bought an ND filter for my camera, so I'm sort of standing out the way of the sun. I did plan to do some walking around and stuff, but yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. I'm still really unhealthy, and just even holding this camera out at arm's length is completely doing my head in. But we've got 2 microphones on the camera today. Okay, so the first one is the Videomic NTG. This is what you're listening to right now. This is a £225 on-camera shotgun microphone. To be honest, it's one of the best bang for buck microphones that you can buy to put on your camera. There's loads of extra features as well. You can use it as a USB microphone. There's also an XLR adapter for it. So much stuff going on for this microphone that I had to include it in this test, because I think I always would. Okay, now the camera I'm plugging it into is actually a LUMIX S5. So anyone that's used Panasonic cameras know that these have incredibly hot microphone inputs. Okay, so I'm actually using the 20 dB pad on the NTG, and then I've got the gain set to about 8 or 9, and that's getting me in that minus 12 dB area. Okay, so and I kind of prefer to run it in this setup with the Panasonic cameras, then have the gain turned right down on the mic, because I just find even then it's too hot. I mean, I wouldn't even use a lav mic with a Panasonic camera. Now I could have plugged these into my Sony cameras, but I really wanted to just give you sort of a worst case scenario, because we know that Panasonic headphone microphone inputs aren't particularly good. So shall we plug in the Godox mic then? So I've just plugged in the Godox microphone then, and I've got the minus 10 dB pad on it. I've also got the high pass filter on, and I also had that turned on for the Videomic NTG. Now I'm just using an XLR to 3.5mm cable, which I'll link in the description below. And this is, again, it's worst case scenario for the camera test, and it's worst case scenario on how you'd want to wire it. But I still think it sounds fairly decent. I mean, it's definitely the ghetto way of doing it. It wouldn't be the go-to for production value and loads of stuff. But if you were buying this camera, you know, for maybe using on location, you had the external recorder and all of that stuff, but then one day you just wanted to do a bit of running, gunning, moving around and all that sort of stuff, this is going to hold you up really well. I think it does a very good job. I would still, for this situation, pick a Videomic NTG, or even Godox's, I think it's the VDS-M2, which is their version of the NTG. But yeah, you could still use this in this setup, but definitely the one thing you're going to want is an external recorder. Now, I've shot this about 4 or 5 times now, so it's early, it's bright. Look at that sunshine. So what do I think of the Godox VDS-M3 then? It's a tough sell. It is a tough sell, and this is going to be awkward because it's the first thing that someone sent over to me, but I always like to be honest. You know, if someone doesn't want to send me something again because they don't like what I say, then that's just how it is. I always have to be honest and base my opinions on some stuff, okay? And, you know, I'm not a location recorder person, so I'm sure people are going to do better videos on this than I'm going to do. But my initial impressions on it are that I very much like it like this. If it's going to be in frame, because you can't have a large diaphragm condenser microphone, you don't want a dynamic microphone, and there's no budget pencil condensers that you want to use. So you've decided to go for a shotgun, and then also because you can use it in other places and take it outdoors and use it on location. If you don't mind it being in shot, I quite like it. And I quite like it because it doesn't have a very strong proximity effect, which means you can get this microphone closer. I've obviously found with other shotguns, and it's not just the NTG3, I know that one is, you know, strong in the bottom end, but I've tested other Rode mics which aren't so I've had the NTG5, I've got a lot of the video microphones, and I've always found that I need to, maybe when you say that's your sort of distance away, I would do that another half again, or even twice that distance, so you don't need to do that as much. So I actually prefer this microphone for a close miking situation. But where I didn't like it so much is when it's being boomed up. I found that just the lower frequencies really started to drop off, and it didn't matter if I was using the 75 Hz high pass filter or not. And you know, you're still going to need to, you know, remove some of that afterwards. So even if it sounds like there's a little bit more lower end there, you're still going to need to get rid of some of that rumble and stuff anyway afterwards. So for that situation, I didn't like it as much, but you might really like that. You might like that it's very flat and doesn't have as much of that sound. I prefer microphones that have a little bit of shape to them. Okay, so a little bit of body in the bottom and a little bit of this in the top. And that's what I prefer. Now outdoors, I obviously think that the Videomic NTG sounded better, but it wasn't on an external recorder. Okay, we were just going with an XLR to 3.5mm cable, so it's not a fair comparison there. But I just wanted to show you the difference. If you were someone that was going to buy 2 shotgun microphones, maybe you did have a nice XLR shotgun microphone, but then at the same time you also wanted just an on-camera one. So I'd probably, you know, if you were doing that with your budget, maybe just buy the Go 2 if you just needed something a little small for running and gunning. The problem that I think that this microphone is going to face is its price point. So $300, I don't know what the UK price is yet. Now that sits right in between 2 microphones, the MKE600 and the Deity S-Mic 2, which are fantastic shotgun microphones. I don't own either, but I've watched enough content on them now to know what those microphones are capable of. Now the MKE200 is actually quite a bit cheaper in the UK. I think it comes in at a very good price. You can get it for like $220. If you were looking secondhand, you can get them for like $170, $180 in really good condition. Okay. The Deity S-Mic 2 is about £50-60 more, but it's a nicer microphone and it is a lot quieter. There is a lot less hiss generated. The MKE600 is only going to be slightly quieter on this with self noise. So if I was Godox, because a lot of people have a lot of time for Godox, you know, I know they make fantastic stuff. They make fantastic lights. I'm not saying this is a bad microphone. I like this microphone. But the approach that I would have took if I was selling a microphone that sat right in between those two, you know, the MKE600, which has been well known for, you know, a long time, and then the S-Mic 2, which is, you know, not been out that many years, but has got quite a good cult following. It's quite well regarded within the industry. I would have included more accessories. So I would have made sure that this came with a Rycott style shock mount. I would have put a fluffy dead cat filter in it. I would have just added as much little bits as I could so that it looks more attractive to people that were potentially going to buy it. Okay. But like I said, my tests, every test that I've done today really has been a worst case scenario for pretty much most of the microphones that we're using today, whether it's because we're using the hot preamp on the camera, whether it's because we're booming them indoors, you know, not acoustic treatment, you know, all of those things. And I do believe it held up well. Anyway, that's it from me today. Make sure you leave a like, make sure you subscribe, and I'll be back with some more content very soon.